This video was recorded in front of a live virtual audience. Hi everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fashion Bunker. Today I'm going to present to you a very special book, very close to my heart because the person who wrote the book is very close to my heart. We've become very close friends virtually because we met thanks to YouTube and thanks to Instagram. And that would be The Wonderful World of Madge Gill. And the author of the book, Ayshea Ahmed, is with us in studio in the Fashion Bunker. And so I am so thrilled and so honored and so happy to have Ayshea come and visit us in the Fashion Bunker, even though virtually, but we are in lockdown. So the virtuality of it all is a good thing. It's a good thing that we're both safe in different places, but that we can unite around this campfire, which is YouTube. And in this case, Ayshea, welcome to the Fashion Bunker. Okay, you're online,
Dacob.
sweetie. Can you hear me?
I can hear you slightly.
Well, as long as you can hear me at all, that's good. So, dear,
Yes.
who wrote this book?
I wrote this book.
Yes, you did.
Yes, it's my work. Written and illustrated by me. Yeah, it's been a project that really has been close to my heart as well. So I hope you've enjoyed it, Dacob.
Listen, I want to open this particular. So you guys, Ayshea is an artist and she illustrated the entire book, but also wrote all the texts in the book. So we are looking right now at the orphanage, Madge entering the orphanage.
Yes,
This is a very
yes.
particular image because it caught my attention because it's very COCO-esque in a way as well. And we're going to get to Coco Chanel. There's similarities between Madge and Coco to talk about. But I want you to tell us, if you can, briefly, who is Madge Gill? Who was Madge Gill? And what she means to you?
I'm going to tell you who Madge Gill was, about her life and about her work, and really what she means to me. I will start off by saying that I don't know who said this. It's a famous quote. Is that the subject often finds the artist rather than the artist going to look for the subject, and that's really what happened with me with Madge Gill. About 10 years ago, I was visiting an art gallery, and I saw some of her work. And a little bit in the same way as you go somewhere, you spray a perfume on your skin, and then later on that evening you can still smell it, you're still thinking about it, it's kind of brewing its way inside you, and you're sort of connecting with it and thinking, yeah, I want to find out more about this, and I want to explore this further. And that's really what happened with me with Madge Gill. I was so tantalized by her work and by her story, that it was something that I just couldn't let go. And I'd always really wanted to write a book about her, just to share her story as well. I'll just tell you a little bit about her life. So she's what would be classed as an outsider artist. So the term outsider artist was actually coined in 1972, and it's taken to mean somebody that is self-taught. So this is the sort of person that would not go to an art college, they wouldn't have studied anywhere, they didn't pursue fame or fortune or any of those things that you might associate with a traditional working artist. Madge Gill created her own artwork for herself. By herself as well, although there's another little part to the story, because she actually claimed that she was possessed by the spirit, by an otherworldly spirit who she created the artworks through. So she was born illegitimately in Victorian London, and during that time that was seen as something very shameful. So she was hidden away by her family until she was 9 years old, when she was admitted to an orphanage. And she stayed at the orphanage for 5 years. Then at the age of 14, she was sent to Canada by Dr. Bernardo's orphanage to work as a servant on a farm. She stayed there for 5 years, and then she came back to England, married her cousin. They had 3 sons. Sadly, one of them died in the influenza pandemic in 1918. So she was absolutely heartbroken. She became very ill, lost one of her eyes. She had to have one of her eyes replaced with a glass eye. And then she also gave birth to a stillborn baby girl. Yeah, it was really, really sad and tragic what she went through. She had a really, really, a tragic life. So she lost her eye. She gave birth to a stillborn daughter. And then that same year, something was to happen that was going to be a real catalyst for her and her artwork. So I'm just going to read a little bit from the book. I'm just going to read 2 short pages and then 1 paragraph from the next page. So, one day in 1920, after her recovery from her eye operation, Madge was in high spirits, doing the housework and singing the song Home Sweet Home at the top of her lungs. She was singing so loudly, in fact, that she could be heard throughout the length of the street. She went outside into the garden with her 2 sons and looked up into the sky. There she was greeted by an incredible vision of a crucified Jesus floating on a cross, accompanied by angels. Madge proclaimed that she had looked into another world and she had seen crowds and the faces of people, including Dr. Bernardo himself and a great number of children. It was this sight in the sky that was a catalyst for her sudden, passionate and obsessive interest in drawing, sewing, knitting, singing and writing, all of which she began in earnest. From that point onwards, Madge explained that she had been possessed by a spirit who flowed through her hands to create these artworks. It was for this reason that Madge refused to sell any of her work, as she believed that they were not her own creations, but rather the property of a friendly but nebulous spirit whom she referred to as Myrnaest. It was always under this name that she signed her work, and many have speculated that this name was Madge's own secret language for my inner rest. We cannot know for sure whether Madge was authentically channeling Myrnaest, but it is what she believed to be true, and this connection was certainly a factor and the driving force behind her creative output. Her possession by Myrnaest would remain for nearly the rest of her life, and together they created thousands of magical drawings, paintings, embroideries, knitted pieces and automatic writings. And just to say that her work always featured the same thing, which was the face of a girl appearing over and over again. So we don't really know who it was that she kept on drawing. Was it the daughter that she lost? Was it her as a child? That's one of the enigmas of Madge Gill. So that was just in a little nutshell about her life.
Thank you so much, Ayshea. By the way, you guys, I mean, first of all, what an honor to have the author read 2 pages of a book for us. I get goosebumps because it's a special treat. I hope you're all aware of this, because to have an author of a book actually read their own pages. And by the way, Ayshea, while you were reading, I was showing the illustrations that matched the pages that you were reading. So thank you so much for reading to us. I was telling you when we were chatting, I was telling you it's so, for me, so fascinating how Madge found a way to cope, because fundamentally to me it feels like, I mean, I ain't no professional psychoanalyst, but I I understand human nature in a way. And to me, the fact that she was orphaned, that she went to another continent, that she then traveled back home after many years, that she lost a child, that she lost an eye, you know, so much trauma, so much trauma. To me, it sounds almost like finding this, my inner rest, is a way that she found or had to cope with the trauma, to be able to live with the trauma. And a lot of people, when they go through really heavy trauma, they have to reinvent themselves if they want to survive. They have to find a way for their soul to hide it in a place that it's so safe, where it doesn't get hurt anymore, because it's so fragile. And I think that fragility really comes through with her, through her work, and in particular through your words and how you describe her work. And so I had this difficulty, the way that she signed her, well, not her, she said she co-made, right? She was channeling somebody while she's drawing and while she's automatically writing. This My Inner Rest, which I have difficulties pronouncing because the way that Madge wrote it is Myrninnerest. So I pronounce it Myrninnerest, but you have your way of pronouncing it too, right? How do you say it?
Okay, so quite a famous question. How do you pronounce Myrninnerest? Well, I pronounce it as Myrninnerest, but the truth is, I don't think anybody really knows. I mean, to look at it, it certainly looks like it's kind of going along the lines of My Inner Rest. But again, it's one of these things that is going to be left open to interpretation by each individual. So yeah, there's no real answer to that. I mean, my mum calls her Minaret. So, and I, you know, I think that's quite cute, really. So, I would leave that up to each person. But I do feel that Madge was probably trying to disguise it and make it an almost indecipherable or a little bit difficult. So yeah, that would be my answer to that, and I'd be interested to know how other people would actually think to say it. So that would be interesting.
I definitely, because that's why I'm asking you, because I have my interpretation of how to pronounce it, and I think everybody's going to have their own, and I think that's also kind of the beauty of an artist like Madge finding her own path and identity by canceling the ego. Now, this is an important point. Artists are all about ego. To be able to cancel your ego and be like, I'm not even going to sign the painting with my name. This painting belongs to the world. It's not just me. It's a bigger picture. And not just that, but to have the moral integrity to say, I am not going to sell one single painting, sketch, drawing, or automatic writing of mine because they're not mine, because they're of the universe, of the world. So that the fact that she did not profit from it, that fact that she just produced for the love of it and giving it free to the world in a way, and not even signing it with her name, but with another, signing it with a token, really, that shows how rare this artist is, how altruistic to abandon your ego completely and just create for others, basically, is amazing.
And when she died, they found lots of her artwork. It was all stuffed in drawers, stuffed in cupboards, under the bed. You know, it wasn't like these were a commodity to her at all. In fact, that was amongst many other images that kind of sprung to my mind when thinking about her for all this time. What was those you know, those postcards stuffed in the drawers. And I mean, some of her works were so large. I mean, I've not even mentioned this. You know, she used to work on huge, massive pieces of calico. And some of her work would go on for meters and meters long. It was absolutely, you know, it was exhausting for her as well. And she used to work in a kind of stream of consciousness. You know, she was really somebody that poured everything out of herself. You know, to the point of exhaustion, but she had to do it. You know, her artwork was truly innate to her. It was something that sort of came from within. You know, and she was very, very prolific. But yeah, just to go back to the fact that she wasn't really trying to gain financially from it as well. I mean, there was so much work there by the time that she died. You know, she could have made a fortune.
But
Yeah.
what I find beautiful is the fact that you, as an artist, want to give back to Madge somehow. She inspired you so much that she moved you to a point
Yeah.
where you felt compelled to illustrate so many beautiful illustrations with wonderful colors, by the way. The saturation is just blissful. And delivering that back is just, I feel the love in this little booklet. I totally feel the love. And I want to ask you about your process, your artistic process. How long did it take you to illustrate these illustrations for this book?
Okay, so I think I started around the 22nd of January this year. So I did a bit of a Madge Gill. I I
You
threw
pulled a Gill.
myself into yeah, I pulled a Gill. I pulled a Gill. Um, you know,
You
yeah,
pulled a Gill. You
yeah.
pulled your Myrinarest on this one.
I certainly did. You know, Madge Gill has actually been a real big inspiration to me. From the moment I first saw her work, again touching on perfume, it was as if I'd been touched, or, you know, she kind of grabbed me. It was like this wasn't gonna, you know, this wasn't gonna let go. And it was just this year that I finally sort of had some time to actually work on the book. But I think what I wanted to do here as well is, because her life is so amazing, it was to just fill in those gaps and give life to the bits in between, because you can look at an artwork and you just kind of see the surface and the finished product. This is why it annoys me when, you know, people directly copy from other contemporary artists, because the kind of just taking the cream off the top, they're just taking the surface, and and can be like that sometimes when you look at artwork and you don't really know what's gone on behind it and how these things were formed, and, you know, just the other things that went on in that person's life to get them to that point. So I wanted to really sort of flesh out and pad out some of those areas of her life, really. And in terms of the illustrations, a lot of them are based on actual photographs that it's very luckily were taken of her with some of her artworks, and then the other bits I've just imagined. And I've taken sort of inspiration from various artists. So if you look at the page with the Jesus, the yellow Jesus, the yellow Jesus is taken from the famous Yellow Jesus Gauguin painting, and the way that Madge Gill is looking into the air, that's taken from another Gauguin painting, The Vision After the Sermon, where you kind of see the backs of the heads of the women, and you can see the vision there in front. And the angel is based on some early Andy Warhol illustrations. So it was all these things that I've seen from other artists that I wanted to kind of bring into the book and really pad it out and give it, just some of that treatment to bring it all together. And also to bring it together in a way that an adult could read this book, a child could read this book. Even if you can't read, you could just look at the pictures and see that something is going on there, and hopefully follow the story as well.
I think it's beautiful that it is so instinctive. People say, oh, nowadays, iPads, smartphones, they're so instinctive that even 1-year-olds take it in their hands and they all immediately learn how to use it, which is sick in a way. But it's similar.
Yeah.
That's why I love this book, because you can literally go through the images. If you don't want to read it, of course you should read it, but if you can't read it, it's also fine. The images will inspire you and will move you to places. And then you can read it and watch the images. You can read through it once. It's a fairly quick read. It took me an hour and a half to get through it. And then you're compelled to immediately start looking through it again, because then you focus. The first time when I read it, I focused on the text. And then when I went through it again, I focused on the images. And now the images are stuck in my head. So whenever I look through the book, I look through the images. What made you decide for this format, though? This long, like a wall format?
Okay, so I did this book on something called a Surface Pro, which I suppose is like a Microsoft iPad, and I used an app called Sketchable. So I just used the format that was provided by Sketchable. But I did find that it really kind of lent itself to dealing with some of the larger artworks and some of the longer artworks that Madge Gill made. I suppose it could have been made bigger, but again, I sort of felt that it needed to be quite small and quite special. So rather than having a big chunky book, I wanted this to be something that was like a little bit, just something nice. But then again, I do wonder if maybe I would do things that slightly differently if it was a second edition. But I just feel that this kind of worked out well in this size. And I'm really pleased with it. And I do think Madge was probably helping from the other side as well. I kind of went with the flow a little bit and sort of trusted my instincts. And I am actually writing another book at the moment. And I think I'll probably go for the same format and the same size again. So hopefully nice. It feels like something a bit precious with it being smaller.
A couple of things. So first, what I noticed, I'm asking about the format. Why? Because we were talking about Madge Gill and how humble she was and never asked for money for her paintings, never wanted to sell them even, not even signing them with her own name. And I find your approach to, it's very similar to Madge's, because by making a smaller book, first of all, in size, first of all, you make it more affordable to people. You're not doing this huge table book for £200 that only a few people can afford. You're making something that is accessible to everybody. So kudos to that. And that is also very much in Madge's perspective. It's like something that everybody can access. And second of all, this format and this longitude is so, and this is why I love going back to the images, it is so cinematographic. It's like CinemaScope, you guys. It's like 16:9. So what does this mean? This means that when you open this book and you go through it, it's like watching a movie, because it is in CinemaScope, in fact. And cinematographically speaking, 16:9 format and even Cinerama, and going even, I mean, now we're getting technical here, but literally the spectrum that our eye sees, we see So the way cinema works is it comes as close as possible as it can to how the human eye sees. So for us, it's much more comfortable to sit and watch a movie in the cinema where it's long enough, because it feels like you're really there, because that's how our eyes work, rather than seeing old formats on television 4:3, which are almost square. So it's very comfortable to the eye to see an elongated image like this, rather than go for shorter images or too much of a big of a book to hold. So I think it works out really well. It's very handy. It's light. You can carry it with you. It's inspirational. But it is cinematographic. You almost feel like you're watching the cartoon version. Cartoon, I mean, not because it's funny. Cartoon because it's an illustration.
Yeah, it was very instinctive though, going for the size. And there's actually a small border around some of the illustrations, which kind of elongate it even further. And I think a lot of times with illustrations as well, your eye just kind of sees when everything's the right size on the page, when it just kind of looks right. And that's how I kind of worked through the book with all of the illustrations. I mean, you see an illustration there on the page, but it's been changed so many times before. The colours have all been changed. I just sort of carry on trying it until it looks right. And that's kind of what happened with the format and the sizing. It was just, just something that was instinctually, just it all came together as I wanted it to be in the end. So I'm pleased. And actually, I've said this to you before. You seem to notice some of the things that I've done that I don't notice myself. I've just done them, and then you've said, "Oh, you've done that." So
I have a very holistic approach to things. So when I analyze art, it's almost the Stendhal syndrome. I fall into it and I emotionally relate to it if it is art that is emotionally compelling. I'm not the type of person who goes for highly conceptual art, like, a white canvas with one black slit in the middle, and that's it. $2 million, darling. No. Now, a lot of artists and art critics are going to pitch in their 2 cents and say, how dare you? Malevich was an incredible artist. Example of his, black squares, whatever. Sure, certain things have their meaning within the context and the year and the society in which they were produced.
Of course.
But nowadays, let's face it, most of galleries, the artworks that they show, it's like design. It's like stuff made to look comfortable in a living room. It's not art that moves you. It's not art that makes you think. I like art that makes me think. I like art that hints at what it's about, but it doesn't explain everything, but it makes you want to know. It makes you want to research. It makes you want to learn. It opens your brain. That's what art should do. That's what artists, by the way, should do. An artist, a good artist, is the type of person that constantly holds a mirror to your face, to society. A good artist is supposed to always mirror society, because society doesn't like to see itself truthfully for what it is. And the artist's goal, a good artist's goal, in my humble opinion, is to always keep society aware where it's at, what it's doing wrong. An artist mirrors the good, the bad, and the ugly. An artist shows you what you are. And a good artist goes deep and really pushes those buttons and takes out of you those emotions that you thought you didn't even have, really. That's what a good artist does. And I think Madge, in some very weird way, was compelled by herself. She pushed her own button, really, and was in this loop of constant production, creation. Like, she would feed off of that. And I think that is what also David Lynch, by the way, always talks about in Transcendental Meditation. He says, when you tap into the big void, into this big ocean, and you kind of hunt for the big fish, he calls it. I think that Madge was in perfect connection with the universe. She she had no chakras blocked inside of her. She had the energy flowing through her and creativity flowing through her, and she never stopped it. That's amazing. It's so rare to find. So listen, also what I want to know is, what is your next project? Because you said you're working on a new book.
Yes, I am. I'm working on a new book about an artist called Joan Erdley. She was an amazing Scottish artist, and unfortunately, she died when she was only 42 years old. Um, like Madge Gill, during her lifetime, I mean, Joan Erdley was certainly respected, but she isn't as well known as many other great artists. And what I want to do with my books is just bring some light to these wonderful people, and just get their story out there to people that might not have heard of them. And rather than sitting down and reading a big textbook about somebody's life, just a quick, enjoyable slice of their life in a book. So the illustrations for the Joan Erdley book are underway at the moment. I would say that I've also improved my illustrations, and they're just the wonderful and magical. And everybody should also look up Joan Erdley if you get a minute, and just have a look at her work, because it was extremely powerful stuff. And she had a really short life. So there's another one to look into. Yeah, so there's going to be a series of books.
Yeah, a series of books. Looking forward to those. Yeah. Listen, now in the description box underneath this video, I will post all the links that Ayshea gave me, where you can purchase the book, where you can find the book. But also, she will have, as far as I understood correctly, a couple of books that she also signed herself. You could also order those. But the link will be in the description box underneath this video. But also, Ayshea, I would like you to tell us where we can find you on social media. And I've noticed you have many different profiles according to the different books you make. So let us know where we can find you on social media.
Okay. So the Madge Gill book is at Madge Gill Book on Instagram. Sorry, all of these are on Instagram. So I've actually got 4 accounts on Instagram. So at Madge Gill Book to follow this book. At Joan Erdley Book to follow the progress of the Joan Erdley book. And I also have a perfume Instagram called Reminiscent Notes. And I have my own Instagram, which is Ayshea A. And then I have another one for my artwork, because I'm a painter as well as an illustrator, and I've got Ayshea Art. You can probably see one of my paintings behind me. Just to let you into a secret about a forthcoming book. I don't know if anybody's heard of the photographer Vivian Maier, but she was an amazing photographer, and her photographs were found. A guy went and blind bought a box of negatives at an auction, and he started to develop them, and the photographs were absolutely amazing, all taken in the 40s, 50s, 60s, in New York and Chicago, I think. Which is the place with all the windy roads that go up and downhill. Do you know? San Francisco, I think. Yeah.
The winding.
Yeah.
That's very Beatles. The long and winding road.
My geography is absolutely terrible. But anyway, if you've heard of Vivian Maier, I'm also going to be doing a similar book about her. Another amazing, intriguing artist, another outsider whose work was just amazing. So it's going to be like an art history lesson through my series of books to learn about some really, really special people.
But listen, I think the creative process is incredible, but also what is incredible is how we met, because
yeah.
Listen, you guys, you know, after all is said and done, you know what else flows into art and artists? Perfumes and fashion. And this is something that connects Ayshea and me quite a bit. We love perfumes and we love fashion. And by the way, Ayshea, I see what you're wearing. Thank you so much for wearing Dacob, the extract, the limited edition pumpkin perfume. These are not available anymore. This was a limited run. Thank you so much. And Ayshea is, by the way, also a patron of mine. She's also a member of the channel. She's like one of my biggest supporters. It's like, thank you so much. And
of course.
And also, I want to know, what perfume are you wearing today?
Cristal.
Oh.
Yeah, I managed to get like the last drop out of this earlier, the eau de toilette. And then I have a dash of number 19. And then I just grabbed this earlier because I just thought it was really, really interesting. Because this is my first bottle of Allure. And it's still got some of the juice left.
Wait, is that the eau de toilette?
Actually, I'll have to turn it upside down. I think so. I mean, it's the eau de toilette. I mean, when I bought this, I probably wouldn't have had that much money. So I probably would have gone for the eau de toilette, but I just, I thought I'd just show you the old bottle. And it's a dab on as well.
Oh, wow, really? It's a splash bottle.
So yeah. Yeah.
You guys, this is rare. When Chanel used to make splash bottles of the eau de toilette.
Yeah. So I thought I'd grab that and show it all to you. And
they don't exist anymore. I mean, and they're discontinuing more and more, actually. So a lot of the perfumes that we can still get today might not be available in a short time. So get the perfumes you love when you love them, as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Because in today's economy, I have the feeling like brands are struggling to just make profits wherever they can. And if something is not selling the way that they wanted to make profits, they're just going to discontinue it.
And it's such a shame because, you know, they are two different, although they are the same perfume as you know, they're quite different. I think this one I used to find a bit more crunchy and a bit more crisp. Obviously, there's none left now. I mean, I like the eau de parfum, but this is kind of like the edges have been kind of smoothed off a little bit, and I feel like this one had a bit more of a crispness to it.
Oh yeah, totally. It's the only Chanel perfume that still lists two, like Cristal Eau de Toilette is the only Chanel perfume that still has two oak mosses listed in the ingredients. It has oak moss and tree moss as two separate ingredients. I always want to think and say, oh, this is the way that Chanel found a loophole to put a bit more oak moss than allowed into their fragrances. Because no other Chanel perfume has tree moss and oak moss listed. They could have just listed oak moss. It's the same thing basically, but no, it's listed double. And not even Pour Monsieur has a double listing. Pour Monsieur only has oak moss in it. So the eau de parfum of Cristal has no oak moss whatsoever in it.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not listed. No. 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 So it's a very different perfume, actually. It's very vetiver heavy. And it came out in the 90s. Jacques Polge created it in the 90s, the eau de parfum. The eau de toilette came out in the early 70s, and Henri Robert is the nose behind it. So two different perfumers made it, two different approaches. And this is happens often. I just wanted to say this again. I want to thank Ayshea so much for actually, well, first of all, this is her working. Look at the cutie at work. So cute. And also, I would like to thank her so much for thanking me, really. I don't deserve it. I was in the credits of the book right there. Where am I? I'm somewhere here. Where is Super Dacob? Oh, there I am. Right there, little, tiny. There I am. Thank you so much, Ayshea, for the for thanking. Thank you for thanking me. I don't deserve it, really. Thank you so much. All right, you guys.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, we can say it together. Never give up on love. Love you all. See you soon.
On love.
Yeah. Bye.
Love you all.